listening to.
Hey everyone, welcome to Her Sound, Her Power, Her Business, a podcast that amplifies the voices of motivated women in the music industry. We explore the stories behind the success, the challenges faced, and the unique perspectives of women who are shaping the future of music. So tune in for some honest conversations, insider tips, and empowering insights from guest speakers that will inspire and form your journey in this crazy world that is the music business.
On today's episode, we are joined by the wonderful Natasha, who works for Kilimanjaro Live as a campaign coordinator. Natasha gives us an educational insight on how campaign coordination works, the day-to-day responsibilities, and industry tips. How did you first get started into the music industry, and what was the route you took into it?
So I actually went to Solent and I studied music management. That was back in 2018. I didn't do this till a bit late. Didn't go to uni till I was 23. So had a bit of I just worked at a festival one summer and then was like, maybe I could go and do this as my job. So I went to uni at 23. Just kind of worked alongside the course with like local venues, local bands. That was kind of my start, I guess, really.
Oh, interesting. So how did you get into your job?
Yeah, so when I graduated, I worked for a while sort of full-time at the Joiners and did some like PR alongside that, freelance. And then I got a job working for Academy Music Group. So I was doing marketing for them for the 3 South venues for Bournemouth, Southampton and Bristol. And I worked there for just under 2 years and was looking after the marketing for them venues. So working with promoters, working with the teams on the day for doing socials and stuff like that. And then I kind of knew that I needed to take the next step and go a bit bigger, but knew that I had to leave Southampton for that. So I got this job at Kilimanjaro in December 2023. So now I look after a tour in general rather than just one show at one venue.
And how are you finding working for a tour rather than just one show at a venue?
I much prefer it. It's really nice to be able to see something start to finish like that and work directly sort of with the artist teams and be able to be a bit more creative with how you want to do things. And
yeah, that's good. Are there any essential skills that you feel are required to work in campaign coordinating?
Yeah, so I definitely would say like organization is key. I'm looking after around 45 tours at the moment, 45 tours or single show. Yeah, so I could be looking after like 100 shows at once type thing. So you've got to be very organized with what you're doing when, what shows need attention when, what can be left sort of thing. It's kind of that sort of judgment to have like your workload. And then definitely sort of communication. Your communication has got to be so good, whether that be internally, externally, with your colleagues. And yeah, just sort of key knowledge of the artist, I guess. I sometimes get artists that I'll be working on a tour with that I might not know that artist very well. So it's doing a bit of like research into who they are, what sort of gigs they've played before, who their fan base is.
Oh wow, that's a lot to juggle, isn't it? So moving on from this, what should someone's interest be if they're considering and working in live music?
Obviously a love for music. I think that's so key. And what's, I guess, really nice when you're in an industry like this, that it is people's passions as well as their job. Definitely a love for the industry, a love for music, a love for definitely going to gigs, and you can still enjoy it even though you're working with it every day. And yeah, this I think is so nice to work for an industry that is all about people being passionate. Yeah, definitely I would say that could be the key thing.
Yeah, I guess, isn't there the saying, you'll never work a day in the life if you love the job?
100%. And I truly believe that. Some days can be stressful, don't get me wrong, and you do think, oh God, I need to go home. But also it's the love of music and the love of seeing that end product of working on a tour for however long and then being able to sit there and watch a crowd. We were literally having this discussion in the office yesterday of some people in the office have been working on the Papa Roach tour And this tour started at the weekend, and one of the guys in the office said at one point I literally turned around and just watched the crowd for ages, because I was like, this is amazing, and it's so special to feel a part of it.
Yeah, it must be so rewarding seeing it all come together at the end.
Yeah, definitely.
What does your day-to-day work and responsibilities look like, and do you enjoy the lifestyle of the role?
Yeah, so sort of day to day, I do a lot of planning. So when we get a campaign come in or a new tour, we kind of make an idea of, okay, what do we want to spend when? So like planning out a show, the timeline, planning out the budget where you want to spend it, any sort of content ideas. If you're looking, say, if you're looking at an artist that's very sort of TikTok based, you look and see, can we get some content that will work on TikTok from them, and go to their agents and management and ask for that. A lot of like audience research, so looking up sort of what crossover marketing we can do, if we got any tours that might work well with other tours, that we can cross market both artists to their fan bases. Yeah, a lot of that, a lot of sort of building out campaigns and doing research into what might work locally for things. And yeah.
Do you find that different social medias have different strategies? So like
100%.
TikTok, Instagram.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, like there's certain artists that we would never even think of doing TikTok for, like an older generation crowd. We'd never really look at TikTok. It wouldn't work. You'd be kind of wasting your money doing that. But then there's other artists where I've put predominantly money into TikTok marketing rather than like Meta. So it really, yeah, depends on the artist and the audience, and looking at like, where's their background come from, because obviously there's now a lot of artists that emerge through TikTok, and that's how they build their audience. So if you want to market through that, then that's probably the best way to do it.
Yeah, it just depends on the demographics and what.
100%, yeah.
Okay, so we are actually promoting an event named Verse and Chorus at Southampton's Heartbreakers on the 10th of March. Have you got any recommendations of marketing strategies for live music events like ours?
Yeah, so I would say definitely lean on the artist quite a lot. I know that can be quite hard when you don't want to be like, oh, I'm making them do my job. But also when you're working on a show sort of that size, the tickets are going to sell to the people that like that artist. So you want to lean on them to say, oh, could you do a post about this? Or could you make this bit of content for me? Or could you need to look at, yeah, their fan base and who that show is going to sell to. Also, like, look at the other types of gigs they've played. Like, have they played a gig in Southampton before where they've supported a certain artist, and then look at the fans of that artist. And it's like almost like a little game where you go, okay, they've supported that band, so they might then like this band now, and you work around it like that. And then flyering locally, definitely in Southampton, I definitely have experience of doing that, just like flyers in shops, doing social media posts. So yeah, I would say that's probably, it's very all key on the ground marketing with that sort of show.
Okay, thank you so much.
That's okay.
Have you also got any top tips for what emerging industry professionals should know when entering the live music industry?
I think a big key thing that I've learned is you don't have to be the loudest person in the room. Don't worry if you're not the person that's speaking up all the time or answering all the questions. Just learn and be assertive and be helpful. You don't need to be the loudest person there. It's not always 9 to 5, even in the office roles like I do, but you do need to make sure you're getting your work-life balance still. Like, we're very lucky that we're quite flexible on our hours, and obviously some evenings you're going to shows, some evenings you're going home, but yeah, it's definitely about getting a work-life balance and being able to switch off when you go home. Listening to advice from your peers as well. I think, like, I've got people around me in our team that he actually went to Solent and graduated 3 years before me, and so he's like the next level up from me. And like, listening to your peers and talking to them and getting their experiences and asking advice. I think don't be scared to ask advice to people you meet, or asking people to go for coffees. Another one. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so to be open to help from others and keeping an open mind, really.
Yeah, definitely.
Is there anything that people should also avoid doing when entering the live music industry?
I think definitely you've got to show that you've got sort of a can-do attitude, and you've got to show that you are hardworking. I think you've got to not be I think it's all about learning, and it's all about knowing when to say your piece and knowing when to be quieter, or just, it's all about reading a room. I think reading a room is so key.
Yeah, no, definitely. What has been the most difficult challenge you have faced so far in your career? And has there been an important lesson that you have learnt from it?
Worked on shows that have been very out of my comfort zone of things that I know, and I have had to sort of adapt the way that I would usually work on shows. And I think it's about not getting into the mindset of like, this is what we do when we launch a show. This is what we do partway through the campaign. It's about looking at that show as one thing and being like, okay, this audience works like this, and it's not like anything we've done before. And adapting to how a different strategy would work for that compared to what you would usually do. So I think it's definitely again, being open-minded to that no campaign is going to be the same, and they are going to come with their own challenges.
Yeah, that is not all like cookie cutter, that it is all different. It's not just X, Y, Z.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, that's quite insightful. Was there another job role in the music industry that you thought you were going to work in?
I always knew I wanted to do live. I quite liked the idea of the production side more, so like actually arranging like the build of festivals and things like that, getting the actual tour running, like physically running. I knew that I never wanted to do artist management. That was not for me. Got into marketing just from that was part of my job at Joiners. From doing some advertising, you see the sales go up a little bit and you're like, oh, okay, that's got happened because I've done this. But still being able to be part of it and work with the artist team. So
it's all kind of like built up from the Joiners.
Yeah, 100%. And what's really nice is us as a company, like as the promoter here, we have our marketing team, we have the finance team, we have the production team, we have the promoting team, and we're all working towards the same thing of getting this tour running, but all doing very different jobs. That's really interesting. It's really nice to be around everyone that wants the same goal.
Yeah, all working towards the same goal. Oh, interesting. What are your aspirations for the future?
I currently, so in my campaign coordinator role, I look after a certain size of show on my own, but I'm currently being mentored here internally by somebody to start looking after the larger shows on my own, so start to be able to look after arenas and stadiums. So at the moment, that's kind of my aspiration, is that over the next sort of year to work on building my confidence and my skills that I can look after bigger projects.
Oh, okay. So kind of like building up, so then...
Yeah, like at the moment I'm learning from somebody and I'm working on bigger shows with somebody, but it's like being able to take control of that myself. So
yeah, like working up to being able to do it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's quite cool, actually.
Yeah.
So with social media, how do you handle social media crises? Or
it's a difficult one, because as a promoter, we are outwardly facing to the public. A lot of our advertising goes out as the artist. So we advertise online as that artist through their account. So a lot of like negativity that might come from that isn't something that we would deal with. That would come from sort of the artist management side. However, I think we obviously do have like a customer services department here for the festivals we run. I think a lot of it is like replying to people privately, making sure that you're putting out as much information you can about a show so that people don't have questions and can't have a place to raise concerns too much. You're giving the information that's needed.
Yeah. Is there a point where you come in with the crises? Is there a point where you guys step in, or is it solely just artist management?
It's usually a lot from artist management. There would be times potentially where we would say, for instance, an artist is cancelling a show. We would put out the statement that they make to ticket buyers, but we don't write any of that. We're just sort of the person that would send that out to them.
Yeah. Okay. What ways? So you mentioned about how your job role is more creative. What ways would you suggest on how to balance creativity and business?
Yeah, so I think that they need to work seamlessly together for them both to work really well. I think it's weighing out what's financially worth it for that campaign. For instance, if you've got a campaign that's not got a huge budget, don't blow the whole budget on making a video. Like it's little things like that. Like, is it financially viable to do these things? You're having to work out whether something's more like a branding thing or whether it's more a marketing thing. And sometimes we come up with all these creative ideas and then we sit there and say, but is this going to sell tickets? Because at the end of the day, that's what our job is. Our job is to sell the tickets to that show. So yeah, there's definitely a fine line between that, and also sort of looking at what level that artist is. How creative do they want to be? What can they make for you? Can they make you a little video themselves? Can they send you things like that? And also looking at what you can do yourself, like things that you might not be able to have the budget to outsource getting a video made or things like that. Can I just edit this video myself in-house? Can I take a few minutes and clip these bits together, or that type of thing? So yeah, it's definitely all about making them work seamlessly together, but weighing out what is worth it for that budget.
Yeah, like what's financially viable, and if not, problem solving a way to make it.
100%. So like sometimes I can get a video and our creative team in-house might be able to edit it, but sometimes if it's a big job and they don't have the time, we have to outsource it, and then it has to work out, okay, is it worth that?
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. What was the process for you to gain the experience you needed in order to be confident in your role?
I think definitely sort of like educating myself on what different roles were in the industry, who did what, like I said earlier, sort of talking to your peers and listening to people and taking in lots of information, and also just like a love of the industry. I think that is just, like I said before, the music industry is a passionate industry, and people love music and love gigs, and that's such a key part of being able to grow your confidence.
I feel like the most successful people are the people that you can see who have a passion behind it.
Yeah, 100%.
And did you have any second thoughts or struggles gaining this experience?
A little bit, I guess. It's been quite unique for me because when I graduated in the pandemic. So at the time, live music wasn't really a thing. But I knew that's what I wanted. Eventually, I knew I wanted to work in live. So I definitely had my times where I was like, oh, maybe I'll think about doing something else for a while, or maybe I'll do, like, I looked at doing social media and stuff like that. But I always knew that live was what I wanted. And I just think it doesn't have to happen overnight. I have been lucky in the roles that I've got, and I've been lucky in how I have progressed, but it didn't happen straight away.
Has there been a massive difference between in the pandemic and post-pandemic with promoting events? Like, what was different working in?
I think it's difficult to say, because during the pandemic, like, I was still a student and I was putting on smaller events and working at the joiners and things like that. But I guess a lot has come from, I think, ticket buying habits. Ticket buying habits have changed since the pandemic. I don't think there's such a rush at the start anymore to buy tickets as soon as they go on sale. People wait it out a little bit more, apart from if you're like Taylor Swift or Beyonce or something. You're not getting that mad rush to buy tickets at the start anymore. But that doesn't mean to say there's not a fan base. It just means I think people's habits have changed since the pandemic. They don't think so much far ahead, I don't think, anymore.
Yeah, like trends have changed since,
yeah,
like a pre and post pandemic.
Yeah,
there has been a change in not necessarily just the live events, but everything behind it, from ticketing.
Yeah.
Has cost of living also affected live events as well?
I would believe so. I think it definitely shows. I imagine certain shows with certain ticket prices will struggle with different things, but then also the shows with the higher ticket prices are the things that people want to go to. So, like, again, like the big Beyonce tours, we don't work on that, but the things like Beyonce, Taylor Swift, Oasis, all very expensive tickets. They sold out. People still want them. People still want to go to shows. But I do think definitely cost of living has changed the habits, in that people aren't going to buy now for a gig that might be later in the year. They'll think, oh, I'll buy it later in the year, the smaller shows. I don't think people, like we say, are so in a rush now to buy as soon as something goes on sale.
Yeah, that's quite interesting what I've noticed as well. The big expensive shows, like I remember, I think it was Oasis. I tried to get tickets and they were about £200 or £300 and they still sold out. Like,
It is crazy.
if you could give any kind of advice to entrants.
I think definitely gauging an idea of what part of the industry that you do like, whether that be live, whether that be artist branding, whether it be management, definitely doing that. I think as well, just talking to people. I was always quite nervous of like making contacts and things like that, but you don't have to, you can go and talk to that person and get their email address and follow up with like an email or add them on LinkedIn. Or I think you slowly build your confidence doing the things like that. They didn't come naturally to me. I took a while to sort of open up and feel confident in my abilities to network, but eventually you realize, oh, I'm just doing that. I'm not thinking too much about it.
Yeah, I guess the confidence with it develops over time and it
100%.
feels a lot more natural.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely now, like, I'll go to shows now where there'll be an agent that I've worked with, or there'll be the management of the artist, and somebody will introduce me to them, and I don't think twice about it. Whereas before, when I was at uni, if I had to meet somebody in the industry, that would have been my worst nightmare. Like, I would have been panicking. But now I don't think twice about it.
And what has been the most rewarding campaign that you've worked on?
I would say a couple that I've worked on in the last year have been really special. I had my first Royal Albert Hall shows in November, 2 nights which were sold out, which was amazing. And it was for an artist that I love. So it was for Joe Hisashi, who is the composer for all of Studio Ghibli. And that was incredible. And I got to take my little sister with me who loves Ghibli. And it was just beautiful. The venue is stunning anyway. It was a whole orchestra, and I just had a really like, wow, this is my job moment. And yeah, that was a real highlight. I also got to work on the Mallory Knox tour last year. Mallory Knox were touring 10 years of their album Asymmetry, which came out when I was 19, and I was a huge fan of that album and used to play it all the time. And as soon as that show came in, I said, I want to work on that one. And they were like, yep, you can have that. And so that was really special to then go and see an album 10 years later that I loved, but now I was working on it. So yeah, those have been real highlights for me. There's a few things coming up this year that I'm working on that are new sort of challenges for me. But yeah, they've been my two like big career highlights so far.
Did you ever think when you were 19 that you would then be working for them?
Not at all. No, I don't know if you've seen the trend going around on TikTok at the moment that's like the writing a letter to my younger self thing.
Yeah.
And I was actually talking to one of my friends the other day and I said, if I wrote one of those, like 19-year-old me would think I was so cool. Like, but yeah, I never would have imagined it. At that time, I'd never even considered leaving my hometown. So yeah, a very big difference.
Every job that you do, it's so rewarding seeing the end, but especially when it's a past artist that you've looked up to or admired.
Yeah, definitely. And like we've been doing the Papa Roach tour at the moment, and the people that have worked on that have said how like they've loved that band for like 20 years and had an amazing time. So yeah, it comes back to that whole thing of music being such a passion industry and people loving the role and loving the artists and the music and seeing that end product.
To wrap it up, as we do with every episode, have you got a funny story from your career?
There's a couple of sort of funny anecdotes that we've had, a couple of things. So one is, I won't name the artist. One is we had a rider come through that they wanted puppies in the dressing room. And all of us were like, what? Our production team had to source a company that would bring in puppies. So we were all like, okay.
Thank you so much, Natasha, for coming on our podcast. We really can't wait to follow your journey in the future.
If you made it all the way to the end of this podcast episode, thank you so much for all of your support. And if you enjoyed, please give us a like and subscribe for more music industry content, or get in touch in the comment section for any future music professionals you would like to see. See you next time from your girls at SMB.